The truth about Bitcoin's greatest threat is here. Watch the 51% Attack podcast before it's too late.
All right, today we're diving into one of the biggest boogeymen in crypto. You've probably heard of it, the 51% attack. It sounds pretty scary, right? And, it is. It's a threat that really gets to the core of what makes Bitcoin, well, Bitcoin. I mean, just think about it for a second. What if one person, or maybe a company, or even a whole government could just take control of the entire Bitcoin network? And with that control, they could start messing with things like reversing payments, blocking anyone they don't like from using it, essentially rewriting financial history as it happens. And look, this isn't some sci-fi movie plot. The way to do this, it's actually a very real thing. So to really get why Bitcoin is so resilient, you kind of have to understand its biggest theoretical vulnerability first. Let's get right into it. What exactly is a 51% attack? Okay, so here's the simplest way to think about it. A 51% attack is when a single person or group gets control of more than half of the network's total mining power, or hash rate. Once you have that majority, you basically own the game. You're not just a player anymore, you're the referee, and you can start making the rules up as you go. So how would somebody actually pull this off? Well, it's basically a race. The attacker starts building their own private version of the blockchain, completely in secret. Now, because they have all this computing power, their secret chain grows way faster than the real public one. Then, once their secret chain is longer, boom, they broadcast it to everyone. And here's the key. Bitcoin has a fundamental rule that says the longest chain is the true chain. So the entire network has to drop the honest chain and switch to the attacker's new one. It's called a reorg, and it literally erases everything that just happened on the old chain.
And this is where the chaos starts. With that power, an attacker could double spend their coins. Think about it. You could go buy something with Bitcoin and then unleash your longer chain, erasing that payment from history. You get the item and you get your Bitcoin back. You could also just decide to block certain people's transactions from ever going through. But, and this is super important, there are limits. You can't just create new Bitcoin out of nothing, and you can't steal Bitcoin that's already sitting in someone else's wallet. It's all about rewriting the recent past. Now you might be thinking, okay, that sounds bad, but has it ever actually happened? Well, for Bitcoin, the answer is no. But for a lot of smaller cryptocurrencies, oh yeah. This is not a theoretical threat at all, it's a very dangerous reality. And just take a look at these examples. It shows you just how vulnerable these smaller coins can be. I mean, look at Bitcoin Gold in 2020. Somebody made off with over $70,000. And the cost to do it? Just a tiny fraction of a Bitcoin. That's wild. Ethereum Classic has been attacked several times, losing millions. So yeah, this isn't just an idea on a whiteboard. It really happens when a network security isn't strong enough. So that really begs the question, right? If this stuff happens to other coins, why has Bitcoin, the biggest one of all, never fallen victim? Well, it all boils down to one word: money. Get ready for this number: $20 billion. That's with a B. According to some recent estimates, that's what it would cost just to buy the specialized computer hardware you'd need to even try to pull off a 51% attack on Bitcoin right now. I mean, the scale of that is just, it's hard to even wrap your head around. And this chart really puts it into perspective, doesn't it? I mean, look at that. Attacking something like Bitcoin Gold might set you back a couple $1,000. Attacking Bitcoin, you're talking about an investment that's bigger than the entire economy of some countries. It's not even in the same sport, let alone the same ballpark.
And here's the ultimate irony. Let's say you do spend that $20 billion. You pull off the attack. The second the world finds out, what happens? Confidence in Bitcoin just evaporates. The price would absolutely crash. So the very coins you were trying to double spend would become worthless. Your billions of dollars of equipment would be worthless. You would literally be setting a giant pile of your own money on fire. It's a completely self-defeating move.
Okay, so it sounds like Bitcoin is pretty much invincible, right? Well, not so fast. Because the most plausible threat today doesn't come from some evil genius outside the network. It actually comes from within. We're talking about the centralization of mining pools. So, take a look at this. This is how the mining power on the network is split up. You can see right here that just two big pools, Foundry USA and Ant Pool, together control over 50% of the entire network. Now, this isn't necessarily malicious, it's just how business has shaken out. But man, it puts a ton of power into a very, very small number of hands. So what does that really mean? It means that, to some extent, Bitcoin's security relies on an honor system. Yeah. We're basically trusting that these two giant companies won't ever decide to team up and mess with the network. And that's a whole different kind of vulnerability. It's not about the code, it's about people and politics.
The good news is the community is all over this. People are actively working on solutions. One of the biggest ones is something called Stratum V2. It's basically a technical upgrade that gives more power back to the individual miners inside those big pools. It lets them choose what transactions they work on, which makes it way harder for the pool operator at the top to orchestrate any funny business.
But let's push this even further. Let's imagine a real doomsday scenario. What if the attacker doesn't care about money? What if the cost is no object? This is where we get to Bitcoin's final line of defense, its ultimate trump card.
Yeah, what if a major world power decides to launch what you'd call a scorched earth attack? Their goal isn't to make money, it's just to destroy Bitcoin for political reasons. They're willing to burn those billions. What could possibly stop that?
Well, the community has what you could call a nuclear option. It's called a hard fork. Basically, it's a massive emergency change to the rules of Bitcoin itself. Everyone in the community, the users, the developers, has to agree to it. Think of it like a complete system reboot that moves everyone onto a new, upgraded version of the network.
And this really shows you something fascinating about Bitcoin security. It's not just one thing. You've got the first layer, which is all the technical stuff, the code, the math. But then you have this powerful second layer, the social layer. That's the actual human community around the world that agrees on the rules and is willing to step in to protect the network.
So, with a hard fork, what could the community do? Well, they could vote to change the mining algorithm, the very thing those specialized computers are built for. The instant they do that, that nation-state's $20 billion investment in hardware becomes completely worthless. Just like that. Their supercomputers are now just super expensive paperweights. Now that is the ultimate checkmate.
So as you can see, this is a constantly evolving game of cat and mouse. And the 51% attack, while it's the most famous, is really just one of the things the network has to worry about.
I mean, look at some of these other attack vectors. You've got things like selfish mining, Sybil attacks. They all target different parts of the system in clever ways. It just goes to show you that network security is never done. It's a constant arms race. Which brings us to a really interesting final question. On one hand, you have the code, right? The math that makes a 51% attack just a ridiculously bad financial decision. But on the other hand, you have the community, this global group of people ready to deploy a nuclear option that makes an attack strategically impossible. So I'll leave you with this. What do you think is Bitcoin's true secret weapon? Is it the brilliant code, or is it the people who defend it?
If you want to uncover the true history of Bitcoin, subscribe to our channel. The story begins here.